Called to order at 7:03 p.m. And the board met in closed session and no action was taken.
Excuse me, President,
Oh.
you need to do flag salute and roll call, please.
We're almost on spring break.
I know, it's like. Roll
I'm a
call?
little tired.
Or the flag salute first, okay. Why don't we have Andrea do it?
Okay. She used her notes.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And then roll call?
Okay, trustee Bradall,
Here.
trustee Villalobos,
Here.
trustee Levin,
Here.
trustee Gould,
Here.
trustee Schiefari.
Here.
Thank you.
And the district digitally records the audio portion of the meetings. The recorder is located in the front of the board scribe. All recordings are kept in the superintendent's office for 30 days and are available during that time period for inspection by members of the public on district equipment without charge. As a community service, Pacifica Community Television records and broadcasts meetings. So like I said, we met in closed session and no action was taken. Approval of the minutes?
It is recommended that the board approve the minutes of the May 29th regular meeting, and this might be of value that was just last week as opposed to 3 weeks ago. So,
Might remember.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Board passes 5-0, thank you.
And approval of the agenda and consent agenda. All items on the consent agenda will be approved with one motion, which is not debatable and which requires a unanimous vote for passage. If any member of the board, the superintendent, or public so requests, any item shall be removed from the section and placed in the regular order of business following approval of the consent agenda. Nobody? So do we have a motion to approve the agenda and consent agenda?
One motion to approve.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Board passes 5-0, thank you.
8A, agenda of the June 5th, 2019 meeting.
You want to move on to the district, or excuse me.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Communications.
Oh, good. LSEA?
CSEA?
Oh, I thought she was going to go up there. CSEA? Yep. People wishing to address the board? People wishing to address the board? Correspondence?
I have none. This might be correspondence. So these are the response to the Pacifica School District from the proposal. It, again, doesn't have the meat in there. That will be in the presentation that will be forwarded to you as part of the agenda on Friday. But it is most of the technical things that Bridge was to submit to us, and Kathy and Elizabeth already have their copies.
So I have one here. Oh, everybody has theirs, okay.
So if don't you think this is cool? This is very cool.
Board and superintendent communications. Who wants to start?
Okay, it's only been a week, so there's not long. Like last Thursday, after we had the work study on Wednesday about the housing, we did meet with Bridge Housing on their proposal, and that's coming up on the 12th to the board meeting. CSEA and LSEA had the end of the year party at the tap room, which was a lot of fun. It was nice to be invited, and a nice sunny day out on the patio there yesterday. And then today was the IBL promotion, so went to that, and they again had perfect weather out there. So perfect place, perfect weather.
I also attended the tap room and the workforce housing subcommittee meeting. That was pretty much it between last week and this week. And just saying I'm looking forward to the Ocean Shore promotion graduation tomorrow night and Linda Mars on Friday.
I have nothing more to add.
But you're now an
Ever.
officially retired person, which you were not last time. we
I'm
met.
officially retired, 4th day of retirement. It's, I have to say, it's wonderful.
Congratulations. So the only thing I have to report from last week is I did go to the Spindrift end of the year dance recital at Terranova, and it was wonderful. And I think why I bring it up is that we should all acknowledge what a great amenity that is, and the good work that they do in our community. And so it was really fun too. The kids did a great job.
They're celebrating their 50th anniversary, right? On
25th.
25th, not quite
okay.
50.
I wasn't here last week because I attended my daughter's graduation. So, let's see, for the past 2 weeks, I attended the work studies, and I've also met with 2 interested candidates about our open seat. Linda Broschini, I hope I said that correctly, and Julie Warlick, who's in the audience. And yesterday, I also attended the LSEA and CSEA dinner, and that was really nice. And then I've just had my weekly meetings with the superintendent.
I think a highlight for me, last Thursday morning, I went to 2 plays at Sunset Ridge, their 5th grade plays. One was Pirates of Grammar Island, and then the second one was really a great play about musicals. So these kids get up and just sing these songs, and it's just really impressive around growth mindset and, you know, working hard and making decisions and learning how to learn. And they were both very impressive plays, and it was great to see the kids so engaged on that one. And then one future item is that we would invite everyone in the audience to, at the conclusion of this meeting, celebrate Andrea's, this is her last official board, regular board meeting. So we still have a meeting next week that she's going to participate in, but following this meeting, we're going to have a little treat. So.
Presentation, early learning program update, Hilder.
Allow me to introduce Hilder. Hilder is, well, go ahead, Hilder. Hilder is one of our district's secret weapons, and sometimes you'll be in the ESS building, and all of a sudden she's working there. But she does a lot that is just one of those pieces that makes things happen magically. And part of it is the long-standing, or maybe it's just short-standing, the relationship between the preschools and our kindergartens. And we've had some kindergarten teachers say, we need that preschool information, you know, sooner. It's really important. And I just say, most districts don't have that. They don't have somebody that's connecting the private preschools and the public preschools to the kindergartens, and that's a really valuable thing. And she has a early learning team, and we also have a very strong kickoff to kindergarten program. And so I'm very interested in building on the work that we're doing, and we're really lucky to have her. So please allow me to introduce
There's
Hilda
not much
Carlin.
left for me.
Okay.
I
She does a 5-slide presentation, which really gets most
I'm not a
folks.
long-winded person. I think most of you have seen me before. How do I?
Sometimes Will?
There's only 5 slides. I can
It's
probably
only
do it.
really
Give me
2
an
that
hour.
are talking, I think, too. Okay. Oops. Okay, so, go ahead. So this was the second year that we had the Close the Gap grant through First 5 and Silicon Valley Community Foundation. It was a little less money this year, but we made it work. And it is 2 years this time, so it will repeat. We didn't have to reapply. It'll run through next year. The biggest thing we did with this money was we collaborated with Brisbane and Bayshore school districts for the second year to offer a series of 3 workshops on Saturday mornings. this is all in here. So I don't know if you guys have questions about that, but that was probably our biggest spend with that money. And then, yeah, go ahead. Oh, there's the overview of what we did. So we have a team, and the team is great for feedback on possible PD topics for the workshops, and also for 2 other events I have that the district supports, which are evening events at Sharp Park Golf Course that are a little bit more social. We serve dinner, and we have like usually an hour of PD there twice a year too. The rest is pretty. We still are doing the Ready for K enrollment forms that were included in the registration materials. And what that is it's a texting program where the parents get a text 3 times a week with little developmentally appropriate tips to work with their kids on different things. And it moves up with the kid, which is kind of awesome. I didn't actually realize that from the beginning. And the transition reports that Heather mentioned, which are basically kind of a developmental profile of the kids that the preschools fill out and we pass on to the K teachers. And they use them especially with considering their classroom makeups when they do their sorting. Next. Kickoff to kindergarten. We made a change this year that I think I mentioned the possibility of last year when I was here. We're moving it to the end of the summer, which I've been a big proponent of since I came because it is a K readiness program. I think it really makes sense for the kids to roll straight into kindergarten and not have, after preschool or wherever they are and then a huge gap. Plus the 2 previous years I've been here, it seemed like there were a lot of families that were making childcare decisions, like do they leave their childcare, what do they do for the rest of the summer? So I think it's going to be great for the families. Hopefully it will work for the district.
Also, instead of having 4 weeks, we're having 3 weeks.
3 weeks. And
because there's no break.
4 sites instead of 5. We took it out of Cabrillo because Cabrillo was fairly under-enrolled and really, we weren't really serving a lot of kids that needed the program. So the Cabrillo kids are going to go to Valamar. Ortega is still Ortega, and then Sunset Ridge has 2 classrooms. And at this time, Ortega and Valamar are full, and Sunset Ridge still has about 8 spots out of 40. So that's that. And if you guys have any questions about anything I do.
So I have a couple of questions.
Sure.
Well, the first question is, I wasn't really clear on the text messaging. Is that texting to parents or texting to providers?
It texts to parents.
Okay.
Yeah, so they fill out a form opting in, and then they can opt out anytime, through the app. And they're texted, I think, Monday, Wednesday. I get them actually just because I wanted to see what it was like. Monday, Wednesday, and Friday.
Okay.
And reportedly, 89% of the families are using at least 1 tip a week that
That's
are
great.
using the
Is this
service.
part of a research project, or is this just?
It was a pilot program, so I just heard from them, and we would have to pay if it continues next year. But
Oh, okay.
How much?
it's like a few $1,000s.
And then on the PD, there's 3 different workshops. Can you just describe a little bit more if you can,
Sure.
what the themes of these were?
Yeah, the first one was Fun with Physical Science, and it was about the new generation science practices, and it was a professor from UC, let me say it wrong. San Francisco State. That we've had in the past. She's super awesome. So she does like hands-on and, ties it in with curriculum, and she's been really great. The second one was math. It was someone from the Silicon Valley Math Initiative, and it was games and problem solving. And the third one was an SEL, social emotional learning focus, and it was a woman from Circle Up Ed that's doing some work up at Sunset Ridge and maybe some of the other schools. And that was actually super well received.
All of it sounds exciting.
Yeah, and it was great that the districts could come together because the money went a lot further. Like we each basically hosted one and paid for one. So
Great.
if I'd done it on my own, we would have probably had one workshop.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Nice job.
What was the, do you know what the turnout was for the PDs?
The
Sort of-
turnout is lower than I would like. The math was probably the lowest turnout, but it's been, and it's, the preschools attend more heavily than the PSD teachers. I'd say once we had as few as 5 and maybe as many as 20. Yeah, and in the evening, I get closer to 30. But it's hard to do 3 hours in the evening.
Right.
So we've talked about possibly trying offering childcare and seeing if that upped the attendance a bit. So that's a possibility.
We've
next
gone
year.
back and forth on around what's the right time, is
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
people with little kids,
So
Saturdays
weird.
don't work because
They're so
they're
busy.
usually going around to soccer or other kinds
Yeah.
of things. And but for the preschool folks who cannot do it before 6 o'clock, that just makes for a very long evening, so.
Yeah, yeah.
What, was there a differential in attendance between PSD staff and staff from the other two partner districts?
The other 2 districts are tiny. One of them is one school, TK through 8, and the other one has 2 schools.
Okay, so they were usually always there.
Yeah, so they don't even really have to promote. They just go down the hall and ask their 3 teachers to come. And they
So
had,
they
they
Yeah,
just
exactly.
started having partnerships with their preschools, I think, since this grant. So they had some people from their park and rec, especially at the 3rd from one of the districts. Yeah.
Thanks.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks
Thank you
so
so much.
Okay, and we're moving on to district business, district goals. The district values the goals provided in our local control accountability plan, LCAP, and the strategic plan. All of our district board agenda items are tied to these goals. One or more of the goals are listed in the description of each board agenda item. The details of each of those district goals can be assessed on our Agenda Online public page or by visiting the district website, www.pacificasd.org, under District Information Board of Trustees. 11A, approval of the 2017 through 2020 LCAP and LCFF, and the goal is governance. Will?
Yes, so what I have in front of you is the recommendation for the board to adopt a local control accountability plan. As you know, on May 29th, we had a public hearing with regards to the local control accountability plan. There were no recommendations or comments that were brought forward at that time, so there was no modifications made to the LCAP since the 29th meeting. So I bring forth to recommend approval of the LCAP.
Do we have a motion to approve?
I will motion to approve.
Second. And all those in favor?
Let's finish it.
Board passes 5-0. Thank you.
And thank you, Will,
Thank you.
Nice work, William.
for this.
11B, federal addendum for LCAP 2019-20 goal governance. Will?
Okay, so what I bring forth to you is a recommendation for approval of the federal addendum to the LCAP. And just so that you have a little bit of context, this plan used to be called the LEAP, which was a federal, any kind of federal funding that you would utilize for it. The federal addendum took the place of the LEAP. It's based off the Every Student Succeeds Act, which requires local agencies to complete a plan. And the feds want their separate plan. Even though many of these things are located on our local control accountability plans, at this point, we need to have a separate addendum that's specific to any funding that's federal related. We just approved the local control accountability plan, so the addendum this addendum needs to be submitted by July 1st, 2019. Is also connected with a thing called a consolidated application. It's called CONAP for short, which needs to be submitted by the CSD a day before, on June 30th. By that date, June 30th, 2019. LCAP is primarily a strategic planning document for each LEA. The LCAP, in conjunction with the addendum and the CONAP, serve to meet the ESSA, which is the Every Student Succeeds Act, LEA plan requirements. The provisions that are required provisions that are part of this, of following ESSA programs are Title I Part A, which is improving basic programs and operated by the state and local agencies. Title II, which is Part A, which is supporting effective instruction. And Title III, which is language instruction for English learners and immigrant students. And those are the ones that we qualify and we apply for through the Con App. So, any questions? Yes.
So I read through this pretty carefully, and I guess I have some questions because it would seem to me that this is sort of a justification that the federal dollars are being spent as the program intended, right? And this talks about supports that we do for specific populations of students or for specific purposes, but it doesn't tie it to our Title I spending. And I think that it's just underlying there that you're talking about things that we spend Title I dollars on, right? But nowhere does it say that. So I'm not sure. I don't think I've reviewed a LEAP before. I've never reviewed an addendum. And I've looked at lots of Con Apps before as well, which I know this feeds into because you have the federal dollars that you have to put in the Con App as well. So I guess is it appropriate to not include sort of the explicit tie to how Title I dollars are spent, as opposed to just sort of saying generally what we're doing for these populations?
So the LEAP used to, as you know, the LEAP used to have dollar amounts, and that was the old LEAP, right? So when they switched over to this federal addendum piece, they did, the idea, the state of California wants to make this one document. They just want to have an LCAP and totally highlight it out. In fact, there's an upcoming input for the 2023, which they're trying to really call out those federal funds and how they're spent and what actions and goals are connected to that, in hope to have it in one plan. So in the local control, in the addendum, the federal addendum, there's words, there's usually at the end of it, I'll say, this is connected to goal 2, goal 3. So if you were to go to the LCAP, you could see what funds were being spent for what purposes and what under what title, Title I, Title II.
Sure. Well, I also questioned myself to see if I got it wrong, because there's also language in there that very clearly states this is about, please divorce this from the LCAP because this is about supplementing.
Yeah.
Right? You don't want to do you don't want to give the impression that you've spent these title dollars first and now and then you did your LCAP afterwards, right? Because then they'll just come after you with a microscope and say you are supplanting and we're going to investigate you now. So I guess I was a little confused and I just thought that I was expecting more specificity with respect to within these text boxes, because you do a very good job of describing what we're doing for Title I, Title II, Title III, but there's nothing that explicitly says we are directing our Title X dollars to this stuff. So that was my only question. But if this is good enough, that's if it's all implied, then that's fine.
And that's also very good to point out, because I think that it needs to be understood, and this is something that all people who put together the addendum have a problem with, is the funding year for federal monies ends in December, begins in January. So you don't even know exactly how much you have for a particular school year until January. So it's basically guessing. But you pull the numbers, you really pull the numbers as close as you can from the Con App. But again, we find out we had one year where we had Title I monies over like 85,000, and then we found out in January it was 45,000. Sure. So there's projections. We don't exactly know how much we have. So and that's kind of a
you might want a best case scenario and then a contingency plan.
Yeah.
So the question is, I mean, I know you're running short on time. This has to be in by July 1st, I think you said, right? Yeah. Would you feel comfortable putting some more of that detail in there at all? So it matches at least what's in the Con App.
Yeah. I've already sent it in for review, pending approval from the board here. But I sent it, and they have already come back, CD has already come back and made suggestions about things that they don't feel are being totally clearly brought out. It was mostly around parent participation and how you build stakeholder,
Okay.
that stakeholder piece. So I'm working on that piece to see if, so there is a review process.
Okay, so sorry to grill you, just one more
That's okay.
thing on this, on the parent engagement
Yeah.
part. There is, my understanding is that for Title I, there is a certain percentage requirement that you have to pass through. I think they call it a pass-through, where you can't spend it generally. It's earmarked for parent education, or parent engagement.
Yeah.
And so that's another piece of detail that I was kind of missing, and it's almost more, I know this isn't a federal document, this goes to CDE, right?
Yeah.
But it's just sort of a protection that showing them that we understand the federal rules and that we're spending the money wisely and, warding off the evil bad audit funding.
Yeah, so there is a certain amount, if your percentage of English learners or your percentage of socioeconomically disadvantaged, depending on the title, if they're at a certain percentage, you have to spend a percent of it in parent engagement. We're not at that percentage.
Gotcha, okay, thank you. Okay, thanks.
But I mean, it is, I can tell you this, Jesse, it is, every year it's convoluted. I feel like I'm reading like the back of a prescription bottle. I am trying to think, like, what exactly do they want? And now, with this idea, which I think is a good move, is making sure the consolidated app and the local control accountability and the federal addendum are meshing together.
Sure.
I think it's their first attempt. I'm hoping that there's a better, more, not streamlined, I don't think that's the word, but more consistent, that it'll go that way. But they're making the effort of it being more concise, more clear.
Well, let's just, it's better than the old days when you had 130 or 140 different categorical programs.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So.
True.
Thanks.
Any other questions? Thank you, Jesse. That was very insightful. Any other?
Was that a hand?
No, it was
Okay.
not.
So do we want to go ahead and approve it then? Do I have a motion to approve?
I guess I have a question for your question,
Okay.
question. If we approve, does that
I
mean that
know.
he can't make any edits after that?
No, it still needs to go through a review board, but the basic content that's in there will not change. It'll be more of like, you didn't address this in your explanation, not you didn't address this in how you're gonna utilize this particular title.
Okay, but that's a review from somebody from
Yeah.
the county or
The state.
or CE?
State.
Okay,
Yeah.
so, but as long as we don't have suggestions that would change the main content, you can take those into account?
Yeah.
Okay, so,
Okay.
If you feel like your questions were addressed,
Yeah.
and then we can approve, and ultimately, he'll bring back the final document.
okay, great,
But-
well, I'll just send you, I have this all annotated in my version, so I'll just email it.
Okay, so do we have a motion to approve?
I will motion to approve.
And a second?
A second.
And all those in favor?
Board passes 5-0, thank you.
11C, adoption of the 2019-2020 budget. Goal governance. Josie.
Thank you. Tonight, we're asking the board to approve the 2019-20 preliminary budget. As Will mentioned, we did have a thorough review along with the LCAP on May 8th. We had a study session where the board was able to discuss the LCAP and the budget. And then the budget was, it was made public on May 24th for the public review. And on May 29th, we did go through the LCAP and the budget just last week at the study session. So we didn't bring back the PowerPoint. Just in summary, it is a preliminary budget. It's based on the governor's May revision. And the state budget will not be finalized until June 15th. So when the state budget is finalized and when the district has all of our staffing, final staffing information and benefits, we will bring the revisions back to the board at first interim, which is ending October 31st. So right now, this is preliminary, subject to change as the state budget and the district's actuals change.
Are there any questions?
I hate to do this, Josie, but could very, very quickly, we have the columns of met, not met, no, yes.
Yes.
Right? Could we just go over those for a second? Because I think I know the answers to most of these, but I just want to make sure that I've got it right.
Of
Can you pull
course.
that up, Will, on the budget?
So that's the certification page that we're going to ask the board to sign off on tonight. So it's actually a good thing to go through it in more detail. And it's called Criteria and Standards Review Summary. It's based on the state criteria and standards. So do you want me to go through each one, or do you have
Well,
questions?
I can call them up for you.
We'll pull it up, right?
Yeah, sure.
What page?
That's,
Page 2,
2 and 3.
the first ones are 6A and 6B.
yes, there it is. Okay,
Can you see that, everyone?
I have a copy here, in fact, too. So you want me to go through
So
6A
next
and
page.
6B?
Next one.
Yeah.
Okay, so what happens with this criteria and standards is when you put your budget into the state software, the software package automatically goes through, and there's a very lengthy criteria and standards in the budget, which explains each one in detail. And these are the areas that they want to call to the board's attention. If the standard is met, it means the district is doing well in that category. So you do want to review the ones where it says not met. And so, for example, in 6B, in 6A, the operating revenues are within the
Go
standard.
down.
There you go.
The operating revenues are within the standard for the budget and the 2 subsequent years. And so, to really see what's happening, we would go to the detail, and I'm gonna find it very quickly so I can kind of explain. So that is 6A. And it's, the detail is about 27 pages, so I'll
Sure.
just kind of go through the first 2 and give some summary explanations after we go through this one. For 6A, so it is state revenues, right?
Yep.
And so what's happening here is you're listing your state revenues for 2018-19, and then you list it for 2019-20, 2021, and 21-22. And when there is a significant difference, it automatically triggers this, this action. And so the reason we have significantly less state revenues in 19-20 is because in 18-19, the state gave us one-time discretionary block grant funds. And so that shows a significant decline from 18-19 to 19-20.
Okay. So there are a lot of districts that are going to be.
Exactly. So there was the low-performing student block grant, the classified block grant, and the mandated discretionary block
Okay.
grant. So the funds were received in 18-19, and we're not budgeting any of those funds in 19-20.
Is the software smart enough to tell you what triggers those? Or is it just you have to know the standards and then actually look it up?
I have to research it or know why the revenues decline. It just basically takes the total and compares it from year to year, and here there's a 33% decline
Okay.
from the previous year, and then we need to go through and explain what that decline is.
And then there was something similar that happened on the on the expenditure side in 6B.
So then on the expenditure side, something very similar happened, and let's see, that was 6B. That is the books and, so this is kind of a different scenario where the books and supplies are going to be higher in 1920 because we're hoping for science adoption in 1920, where we didn't have any kind of significant adoptions in 1819 or future years. And so that's for that 1920 school year.
It's interesting that there are so many reasons that could trigger you not being within the standards that it becomes sort of a meaningless indicator
Yeah, and for some of them,
in some ways, or it's just there's a million reasons
Yeah.
why this could happen.
Exactly, and for these ones, it is kind of out of our control. But there are some that are significant and they
Sure.
want the board to pay attention to, that we could do something about. In this case, we really couldn't, it's just we need to explain why that happened.
Okay. If we move down to S5, which is at the bottom of the same page, the last row, so was that one due to dipping into reserves?
Yes, and that also includes contributions to other programs that we contribute to restricted maintenance, and then we also make a contribution to special education because the state doesn't adequately fund that. And so in that case, actually the contributions did not make a trigger. It was what's under that is called transfers in general fund. And the trigger is because we are transferring money from Fund 17
Yeah,
to the general
that's
fund.
the one, yeah.
And that was not a
Yeah.
consistent practice
Yeah,
for us.
okay.
So that's that trigger.
Okay.
What else? Let's see.
Well, I didn't
S6.
highlight S6 or S7B.
Well, these are things that the board really should pay attention to because
Oh, and actually, this is where they flip the scale. So it's the yeses that that
So,
are
so long-term-
items of concern, potential
It is
concern.
an item of concern. So an item of concern would be long-term commitments. We just want to make sure that we have sufficient funds to cover long-term commitments, which is under S6. And then post-employment benefits. This is always a trigger for Pacifica School District because we do offer retirement benefits for employees once they've retired. And we do offer benefits past, we offer 10 years of retirement benefits, and then we also offer lifetime benefits. So from the state and the county perspective, this is another fiscal indicator.
And it's not fully funded, we're paying as we go.
Yes.
It's not fully funded, and so this is a fiscal indicator for the board to pay attention to. And then S8, status of labor negotiations. At the time, we are still not complete with labor negotiations. We did complete with one bargaining unit, but this is another trigger to, you know, when you don't have your compensation in your budget, it's something that to be mindful of, and so that's another trigger. And then the other yes is actually a good yes. Did the board adopt the LCAP?
Yeah,
So that's fine. And are the LCAP expenditures included in the budget?
And it was really nice how we put this item right after the vote for the LCAP, so.
Exactly. So let me see, I don't think there was, the only other trigger was A6, does the district have uncapped employee health benefits? And we do have uncapped health benefits because we offer full family Kaiser benefits, and so as the rates go up, it is uncapped. We will pay whatever the increases are. And then this is another trigger which will go away next year, is was there a change in the superintendent or the CBO, and that is another area.
It's a great trigger. We have a great
But
superintendent.
we will not have that trigger, so we'll have one less criteria to look at next year.
All right.
So thank you, that's a good.
Thank you so much.
thing to look at.
Thank you, Jesse. Are there any other questions? Nope. So do we have a motion to approve?
I will motion to approve. Oh, I'm sorry.
Second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Board passes 5-0, thank you.
Okay, moving on. Resolution number 2019-06-05. A, classified layoffs as a result of lack of work and/or lack of funds. And this was supposed to be Maria?
And I've asked Josie to
Okay.
take
So
this.
Jesse.
I'll cover this one for Maria. So this is a resolution for classified layoffs. We're asking the board reducing a clerical position and a paraeducator position due to lack of work and lack of funds. And these are reductions, as we talked about in the budget study session and the budget last week. We are making budget reductions, and this is part of those budget reductions.
Does anybody have any questions, discussion? Do you have a motion to approve?
I'll move.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Board passes 5-0, thank you.
And 11E, Board and Superintendent Planning for 2019-2020, Goal Governance. Heather.
So one of the gifts and the challenges of being a board is that we don't get to talk about everything privately, is that we have to talk about them publicly. And I think this is our 7th Wednesday in a row. The last time we were not together on a Wednesday was the very beginning of April. And we have 2 more to go. But in our planning sessions, Laverne and I thought it would be a good time to talk about thinking about next year. If you think about why we are where we are, we're here because good reasons. We are working hard on staff housing, workforce housing, and have made some significant progress on that, and are in good position to make a decision next week around whether we want to enter into negotiations. That's huge. Like, this is you all have been engaged in this much longer than I have. Our facilities master plan, we had 2 work studies on that and a presentation. So these are all good reasons that we've been meeting, but I think what I've seen from you, and I know from myself, and I know from the staff, is we're all exhausted. So it's probably a good time to start to think about next year. And a couple things that I might suggest is that as we have a new trustee, is that typically what a board would do is enter into some kind of governance session like we did last time with Walt Handline, but I might suggest that we do it with CSBA next year. It's so that the group of 5 and myself can come together, to make sure that we hold on to the agreements that we talked about or change them that work on that. So that was one. We also should talk about committee assignments, and we're not going to necessarily change all of them, but Laverne had a great idea that I don't want to step on your toes on that one. And then, what were the other things that we talked about? What are you laughing at?
Oh, go ahead and tell
Stepping on
them.
her toes.
Oh, I don't want to step on my toes. Well,
We
so-
want to know what the ideas are.
Yeah, Laverne doesn't remember.
But no, I remember.
So, on a number of our, trustee assignments, right? So we have our trustee assignment list, and so one of the things we will have to do as we get a new trustee is think about how we replace Andrea on these, and
Not replaceable, so.
I know you're not replaceable, so, but
You wanna come back for me?
in a number of them, we have two people. So like the audit committee, I know the law states that you have to have two, but we don't always have to have two. And maybe we could have one person hold that job, and then if you can't make it, find a substitute, right? So that we don't have two people going to every meeting. Do you want to say anything more about that?
Well, I just thought, why, when we go to the meetings, we're reporting out what's going on in the district, and I just think that it's not necessary for two people when one person's probably just going to be reporting out to the board, or to the community. And so, for example, we're on the joint articulation. So when we report that out, there's only one person that really needs to do that.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what I
That's a
feel.
definite.
And, somebody might feel differently if you're on.
So I think
different one.
that's fine. Okay, so a little pushback. It's, everybody hears something different. And I know that I never catch 100% of what's there. I'm lucky if I'm at 50%. So that's a little bit of a pushback, but I'm a bit agnostic as to whether we have one or two people at each meeting, but that's sort of a case for it. I do like the idea of there is such a thing as healthy redundancy. So I would actually be for having sort of two people, and then they can negotiate who will go, right? But you at least have two people, and ahead of time that you've got your partner, and you guys can figure out who's doing which one. But
Yeah, so those committees that meet more than once a year, it's nice to have a backup. But yeah, like I agree with that committee. We didn't really need the both of us because we were both going to the meetings. We didn't use we didn't use each other to spell us here. But, and then there's some things that need to have two people, like the audit. Kathy and I did the audit, and you want to have just one person, with the audit review, and then the ones that have a lot of meetings, like workforce health, like different, those kind of things need to have two people.
So then what I'm hearing is that we still need two people. And I kind of like Jesse's idea, like for the joint articulation, for example, if, the board members could switch off for those meetings, then it would probably only be once that you go to those meetings. But what I find there is, the city is telling us what's going on, the water department's telling us what's going on, Jefferson Elementary, that's one of the big benefits, tells us what's going on. But it's not really a collaborative meeting. It's just, this is what we're doing.
Informational.
Informational, exactly. And so do you think we could come to some kind of arrangement with our next year?
I mean, the only ones that really, a lot of these, we right now just have one person on, right? So, like the audit, we legally have to.
And for housing, we're both staying on it, so.
Right, and.
And I think that's where you do what Jesse described as the redundancy piece, is that
Right.
everybody's going to hear it. Like, that's such an important one that
Yeah,
we want to.
so, I mean, some of these, are we still even going to have the facilities master planning? I mean, isn't that finished, or are we
The plan
continuing?
is finished, and then we need to bring some of those projects forward. That's actually one of the things that, when you have multiple balls in the air, that I want to make sure that we kind of keep going.
Okay.
So Josie and I may have some more information for you by the end of this week. It just has been going so fast. I do think that, that the committee may meet again as we think about some of the projects and how to prioritize moving some of
Okay.
them forward. There's some strategies around that, but it's not going to be regularly. It's not going to be, so it might be another 3 meetings or something.
So it does sound like some of these we could have 2 board members, but we could also leave it to those board members to see.
To work it out.
To, yeah, decide if they both want to attend, or you take this meeting, I'll take that one. Yeah. That seems reasonable.
The School Boards Association is Andrea, and is that Laverne as president, or is that, is that always, is one of them always the president?
Did we always have 2?
I don't think we always had 2.
No, I think my name might have been accidentally on this.
Okay.
Because I think,
And Jesse has a better connection than either of us, so that should have been your name there, because you had to go to all the board meetings.
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy to be back in there. I wasn't really sure if we wanted people that, so I'm on the executive board there, so I didn't know if we wanted 2 other people from our
So
board.
that, yeah. seems
But
like
that's a lot of us going to.
Puts us in potential.
They're all good
violations.
events though, so
Right.
they're,
For the
They feed you well.
facilities master plan, I wouldn't mind taking her place, taking Andrea's place on that. If you don't mind to mention me.
I can
Or
handle
a
it.
lot of committees together.
So the question being is, are we talking about different roles now, or should we wait until we get, so this is generating conversation. Should we wait till we get number 5?
I think so.
Oh, till we have our new board member? Is that what you're
Well,
asking?
yes, that's what
Yes,
I'm
that's what
asking.
she
Should we
asked.
make the decision now? Should we wait till we get number 5? And, I mean, I would think,
Well,
just as a new person, we
So-
want to protect them as much as possible.
yeah, so I'm happy to wait, but I think we should make a decision which one of these we think requires 2 people for that, you know, for the backup, and which ones don't, just so we can kind of know. And we got 5, I count 5 of you on there.
She was an overachiever.
I know, Andrea Gould, look at all these. I circled all the Andrea
6.
Goulds too.
6? Did I miss one?
Yeah.
Wow. Holy smokes. Oh yeah, there are 6. I didn't miss one. Just didn't count.
Jesse's doing this one.
Well, governing board representative needs to just be one person. It's 1 meeting a year, and you.
Yes.
go and,
One
That's
person.
I
vote
think
for
it's a
those people that are
mistake.
gonna be on that committee to change districts.
Okay, so that's definitely a 1.
That's a definite one.
No backup needed.
Kent, we don't have to have somebody on the Kent Awards.
What do you do there, Andrea?
Well, yeah, when I used to have time, I would go to the screening, to the paper screening, but I haven't had time for the paper screening the last 3 years, so what I've done is go to every once in a while, they have a Saturday meeting, you know, where we kind of talk a little bit of business about it. And then I went and did 1 school visit. It happened to be on Saturday.
Yeah. And so I did both of those things this year. Just.
Yeah. So it's not like we need somebody on the committee because, you know,
I'm already there.
yeah, you're there.
So we don't need 2 people, just 1 person?
Well, yeah, so, you know, in my mind, the School Board Association and the Kent Awards, that's all kind of the same thing. And
Yeah.
you could have, you know, like one, you know, Jesse and maybe a +1 to spell him occasionally. And so he can say, will you go do this time? I have to go to Sacramento.
Nice job.
I forgot that you sacrificed yours.
And then the community liaisons, library advisory, are we still
We
doing
kind of
that?
broke up with that, is their meetings are the same night as our
Yes.
meetings.
So, and they're not changing them, because I remember I requested when I was on that.
They will not change from
So
Wednesdays.
should we even have it on there?
Let me-
Did you go to any of those, Jesse?
No.
Yeah, because they were same night, right? Yeah. So,
I'm gonna just check with Kevin Woodhouse. I mean, I don't think really, we wouldn't want them to change it so that we could attend an additional meeting. I think that you also are quite connected to the library staff.
Right.
So,
And it's all surrounding the build of the new library that,
Right.
you know, that just gets shut down every year.
so we might end up eliminating that one. Let me get a little bit more information on that one.
Pacifica Collaborative, is that okay with one person?
Oh, yeah, it's okay. Yeah, because usually Will goes too, so.
Actually,
usually we
I
have the same
changed my
information.
schedule next year and I'm ripping that one out of Will's hands. He likes going to that, but a lot of his county office meetings are also on Thursdays, so he
Okay.
can't consistently attend that. And I would like to.
I do
attend.
enjoy them because it's on a work day at 8:30 in the morning. It's hard. I know it's hard for a lot of, anyone who's working full-time to do. I'm lucky I can go and then go to work from there. So then I do enjoy it, so.
But that would not require two. It's fun
No,
to
it
go to.
doesn't require two.
It does not require two, but it's fun to attend.
And the wellness committee, I missed that one.
Well, because we haven't met. So you did not miss it.
So is that one,
It's a standing committee and we want to do better next year, but Maria even struggled with CPAC, the Special Ed Parent Advisory Committee, and wants to do better on that piece, so we will do better on our family engagement on both of those ends. She never held a meeting.
So that's usually 2 meetings a
Okay.
year. Usually in the fall and spring.
Wellness.
yeah, maybe
Yeah.
we could put down like how the
How many?
frequency.
The frequency.
Okay.
And the number.
Okay.
So Andrea, so you're just saying like with the joint articulation, still have 2, but then we work out who's going and who's not going?
Yeah, we probably only need 1 representative there.
Yeah, that's,
Were we going to 3 meetings this year? It
We
seemed
went to
like-
3.
Yeah, so that would be nice to have 2 people so you can.
just to, yeah.
So do we want to fill the positions where there are openings in this meeting, or do we want to get this chart in order and that at our August 7th meeting, we will fill positions?
Why don't we do that? I would like our new member to have a say in what he or she wants
Gets
to do.
assigned to.
Yeah, rather than just say you're on
There's
this.
nothing left except for this thing that meets once a month. Every club.
No, it's something that meets like, you know, 3 times a month, but, you know,
The other
9 in the
thing
morning.
is, can we have like the times that the
Oh,
meetings
sure.
usually are?
Dates and times more. or
Dates and
less.
times,
Okay.
and then when we think of like our assignments for graduations and things
Oh.
earlier,
Yeah.
like what times they're at.
And like strategic plan LCAP, you know, that should go on to a new pair. you
Go
know.
on to a new,
2 new pair of board members.
mhm.
You know, it should be a
Switch
pair,
up.
but, yeah, switch up. So that.
Yep.
That's one that I think almost should necessarily be a pair. Like, there should be 2 people there.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I did,
Right.
you know, like if we could legally have 3 there, then we should, but we can't, so.
Right, right. No, that absolutely is, because that question around the purpose of the work study, the work study is really the time for the board to talk, not the time for people to talk to the board. And so that's really where board members should go in with enormous ears, just really listening to. So you're right, that's an important one.
And I think that's it. Strategic plan, audit, PEF. Do we need 2 people there?
I think that it is helpful because, I mean, many of you go to their fundraising social events just as a part of who you are as community members, but I think it's always good for them, and they see it as support for, you know, they're looking for support.
I'm no longer on their board, so I don't need to be. I mean, one of the reasons I was always on that committee was because I was there anyway.
You're getting
But I'm
double
not-
credit.
I'm not there
aren't you?
anyway now, so.
So
Someone else would like it,
two
there
people
wasn't
need
enough.
to go to that meeting?
No, you might
Okay,
want 2
you
people
can-
just because it's every month.
Yeah.
But I actually
I
don't
wanna-
think, do you go to the meetings?
I have not.
I don't
I have
think
not
we-
since I stepped down from the board. so.
Yeah, and I don't think that we've necessarily had people, you haven't gone to their board meetings, right?
No.
Right, so,
Uh-oh.
Do you know where
no,
they are?
I,
Do you know who's there?
it actually didn't occur
I've
to me
gone that
that,
far,
that that
yeah.
was the role of that was the role of the board liaison, is that they would attend their board meetings. They're a pretty intense group, but I know, Jesse, any PEF event that has been, you've been, and you've been, and so, I'm meeting with them at the, in July, and I could
Because
talk to
you
them.
meet regularly, but, yeah.
Yeah, not regularly enough, but we've met 3 times this year, and they're really working hard to get, be engaged and not compete with the PTOs, and they need more people to do some of their work. It's only 5, you saw their presentation, right? So it's a very small number of them. When I talk to them in July, let me ask, what would you
Yeah.
like from the board?
Yeah, it would be nice to have some clarity on what they see, the relationship with the board, and there might be certain meetings.
Sitting through every month's meeting.
No, that doesn't really make sense. There might be certain, and I think most of us try very hard to make their events and support. So, yeah, it'd be interesting to hear from their side what they see.
Okay.
That would be helpful.
Maybe like a quarterly, do they give their budget? Do they give their budget presentation during a certain time?
They give it every month.
Every month.
They're an intense group that they've got
All
this
about fundraising.
dashboard, and they how many people they've touched and how many people participate, how many from each school.
The other thing is, can we also have the administrators that are going to the
Sure.
meetings?
Yeah, because if there are administrators going, then we might not need 2 school board trustees going, right?
That's great.
That would already be one person attending from the DO.
Yep. All good information. So Suzanne and I will bring this back, and fortunately, we'll have some time to get that set straight. Okay, so governance work session is, so the new trustee and Jesse and I will be participating in the Masters in Governance sessions. And in the fall, 3 of those sessions are on Saturday. So knowing that we spent every Wednesday together, but I'm a little hesitant to put unless it were in August, to put a half-day or full-day Saturday on the books, just because I think for the folks that have children, again, that's very challenging. But, so the question is, would we do a Saturday, like a Saturday morning, or should we think about doing a governance session that would be 2 to 6 or 3 to 7 or something? Overall, in general, we want everyone to be able to participate, and so folks, we all have busy lives and busy jobs, and so what makes sense in terms of timing, and we could
You're
have.
talking about Wednesdays instead of Saturdays?
No, I'm just, it would just be 1 4-hour session. It wouldn't be on a regular basis, but I'm trying to think about, should we think about a long Wednesday? Should we really suck it up and do last time we did a full day in
We
August.
did. That
I
was a
don't-
little long, though.
Yeah, and you had a brand new superintendent, right? So, and the more experienced superintendent says, we don't need to do a full day.
So the long Wednesday would be like, come here from like 12 or 1 to 12 to 4 or 1 to 5, and then do a board meeting after that? Is that what you're talking about? Or
I don't
Or
think,
is that
no, I think
crazy?
it would be a different Wednesday.
Wednesday.
And I also, we can pick what time we want it to end and just back down from there, right? So, but
Most of
this,
us clear Wednesdays anyway, by half.
That's
so.
true.
I wasn't very fond of that meeting, I'm just gonna be honest. It wasn't what I expected, and it wasn't what I felt was positive engagement. I felt like we were given rules, and this is what you have to follow. And so I really wouldn't want it to go down that path again. And that's just my interpretation and how I was feeling. And it didn't feel like a bonding. So I felt like it was going to be more of a bonding and get to know you. And it wasn't at all. So if we do it, for me, I would want something that's going to be a little bit more positive. Because, the rules, you can say, oh, here's our rules, take them home and, go study them or read them. But the time that we're taking out, should really be about getting to know the other people. And, making agreements, how we're going to be on a board. But I would just want it to be something more positive, and I didn't feel that the last time. And
That's one of the, you shared that with me, and that's one of the reasons why I'm suggesting that we don't go with the previous facilitator, that we use CSBA just as a more general, most districts use CSBA as the facilitator. And the reason I'm asking now, rather than in August, is that typically these things get booked, and so you want to get your date and your facilitator early. That's just
I just have a clarifying question here, and that is that the point of this meeting is to go over our governance handbook and possibly update it or review it.
That could be
and
one.
Also onboard the new.
That would be one
member.
outcome from that is, but that was really doing the bulk of the work in that one. I don't think we'd have to start from scratch. I think we might want to start with, who are you personally and why did you come to the board? Like, that's one of the things that I think is really revealing to get to know someone is, some getting to know you activities and then, okay, how are we going to work together? And we really could go back to that governance handbook, and that's one place to start. What worked last year? What didn't work next year? What do we want this year? What are our big, I'm going to have a lot more organization in my mind when we come back at the end of July around what are these big things that we have to get accomplished this next
So it's
year.
also going to serve as kind of a kickoff.
I think so.
The next year.
Yeah. Should happen in August or September, I think.
Building off of what Laverne was saying, I think it would be helpful to have, yes, some facilitator. I think it would also be helpful to have some space where we can have that conversation about at least how our board has worked in the past. Because I feel like the time that I've been on the board, it's been a very productive time, and the board has, my feeling is the board has always worked together very well. We might not all agree on, particular things, but we've always been able to do it respectfully. I feel like we've always been able to hear each other, have good dialogue, come to a vote. And so I would like to make sure that we do have the time to sort of have that conversation in there that a facilitator might not approach that, but maybe we could at least just have a conversation about how we work. Again, going back to personality and make it welcoming to our new board members so that they can enter and feel comfortable, because it can be daunting, especially coming in at this time when you have a sitting board, to be the new person on the block. There's a lot to catch up on. And
the other thing just to remember is like where we are, we all start, not me, but you all started in that position where
Right.
it's like, oh, all these policies, oh, this is how we're responsible for making budget
right,
cuts,
it's
right?
a lot to sort of hit the ground running with, and it's going to be the start of school.
But you've all been there, and so
Right.
I think you guys are uniquely positioned to support and help kind of shine the light on that.
I think what generally happens at these things is we bring in an outside facilitator and they structure the heck out of those things, because that's the safe way for somebody from the outside to come and do something like that. And I think that structure is what turns some of your, I don't mind, I can live with structure, but like in this, some of you have a real hard time with that, like, oh, okay, we're gonna do this slide and this, and I wonder if it might be a better format to come up with a conversational kind of meeting where everybody writes down some things that they would like to talk about what they do, and kind of maybe pass the list around or something, have some little conversation, like kind of starter things, so that you can like pick a topic and just kind of like roll around with it and just so a topic you might want to talk about is negotiations, how we should, like we always like to talk about how we act during negotiations, and the new board member isn't going to know what kind of things to ask, but we know the things that were daunting in the beginning, and the board packet. It took me probably 3 months before I figured out it always comes out on the Friday at 5 o'clock before the board meeting. So so I could start expecting the packet. Then then that kind of set me up for reading time and how much to read it and what to read and what to scan and when to weigh. It's a work study. There's nothing to read before it. Just kind of stuff like that you kind of think about, but jot it down. So that you can have a little format to talk about it. I think you might get a little further with that bonding.
And that part does not require a facilitator whatsoever.
Exactly.
What would be interesting is, I'm not saying nix the facilitator, but if we had that session first with the facilitator observing us, that would be really good, because then they kind of understand the dynamic and be able to speak our language a little better.
So just trying to translate what you said is 2 sessions?
Well, it's we're talking about 4 hours.
Right,
However we want
right.
to split it
2 and
up.
2.
So if we took 45 minutes for the first,
Oh.
for this first, or an hour for the first, or
right.
however long you guys think it would take to go over
Right.
what we think are really important. We're talking about is, it sounds like it sort of serves dual purposes, because one, it's onboarding somebody, but it's also discussing what we feel is important, which would lead to what things we have to improve, right, or focus on.
So it still be 1 4-hour session, but a 2-hour and a 2-hour, or two different meetings.
Whatever it is.
Right.
I mean, depending on what the you wanted to accomplish, or we wanted to accomplish with the facilitator, right? And I agree with you guys. I mean, the facilitator is like Walt was just coming in, and he had a charge, right? His charge was to have us come out of there with some semblance of a handbook or a governance handbook, and that's what he was forcing us to do. So it was keeping us on task. So we can't argue with that, but it might not be what you expected or what you wanted out of the day,
It wasn't
right?
what I expected at all.
Yeah.
And he has a very direct style that just is like, doesn't always work.
See, because you were new, and so I thought, oh, we're going to get to know our new superintendent. Instead, it was like, oh, okay, well, we're going to actually, roll up our sleeves and work here. It wasn't I don't even think it was described that way to us. So I just want it to be more clear and clarity, and I like your idea of writing down, the questions, and, for the new person who's coming on board, they might get a sense, of a little bit of each of us and what's important and why we're here, and that too.
What do you think, Elizabeth?
Yeah, I think it was very rigid last time, and a lot of it was with like the psychological rankings of other employees, that it really wasn't relevant to what we do that much. And I think that was one of the things that bothered Laverne, was the time spent on that. So
I forgot all about that. The
yeah.
first section was all
so that was not
Style, yeah.
not needed time that I mean, it's probably good that we came out with a handbook, but I don't even think that probably going over that every year is excessive. That's probably something you could look at every other year. even.
That strength assessment thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't
Those.
need that. Necessarily.
I agree.
Okay, so I'm gonna reach out to LSEA, just give me a ballpark of, do we want to do a Saturday morning in August? Do we want to do a Wednesday?
You can reach out to CSBA.
Oh,
About LSA.
You said LCA.
Oh, LSEA probably would love. I'm not sure we
Yeah.
could afford them. Yes, CSBA.
I'd like to stay with Wednesdays if possible, just because we're kind of
I'm-
psyched into it.
Yeah, I'm totally easy to tell you. the truth.
Okay.
I mean,
If everybody has plenty of advanced warning
Then
and we do it
probably
late
do.
enough that it would be the end of most people's workday with that.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay. We are gonna work really hard not to be in this every Wednesday pattern next year, and part of it is maybe a little less work study and a little bit more planning out the board meetings, but then when we need that piece where we really could have a meaningful work study so that you get to answer the questions. But we've had a lot of work studies because we've had a lot of work, right? So,
Big part.
did we answer all of our questions, Laverne, that we think that we?
There was, we did that and that.
I think that was it.
Yeah, just the assignments for the schools.
Oh,
next
school
year.
assignments. What are you thinking about for school assignments? So school assignments are the ones that switch every year. So, and they switch during the school year. Are we ready to change some of them?
They don't always switch.
I haven't switched.
You have not switched, you hold on to
Sometimes
Sunset
you
Ridge?
hold on to it for a year,
I
for a
did
couple of
Sunset
years.
Ridge and Cabrillo, I think the whole time. So I'm happy to switch it up.
Yeah. I'm more than happy to take Ocean Shore too.
Okay.
Somebody has to. We love
And when is their graduation usually? That's,
Oh, the promotion ceremony?
Yeah.
So it seems like the K-8s are the Thursday before. One starts at 3, one starts at 4, and one starts at
that's
5, so you can't go to all of them. I think that's the pattern. So,
Yeah, that's the pattern for this year.
so.
so do you think we should wait for the new board member to do assignments as well?
That actually might not be a bad idea because they might come from a school and that we don't want to step on toes on that end. Typically, parents are interested in the position, so.
So I was just going to say along that line that I could also take Sunset Ridge if Jesse wanted to keep Cabrillo because you're a parent. Oh, you're taking, sorry.
Sorry.
I've had that conversation.
Our
did, I'm
August
sorry.
7th meeting is going to be a arm wrestle.
Yeah.
Who gets to go to Sunset Ridge?
This year I'm going to try.
Does that work
to-
with the Brown
I'll
Act?
stick with it now.
This year I'm going to try to
course
do
you
it
will.
where I'm going, like the
Someday I'll
graduations
play
are in
around
the
with it,
afternoon
but I-
though, so I don't miss work.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. So, Laverne has spent an enormous amount of time meeting with folks around the new trustee position, and just with every single Wednesday being a meeting, and so she is not going to the Ortega. She'd have to take time off of work to go to the Ortega, and I told her that I was going to go to the Ortega. So we will try to. Yeah, we can totally get you an afternoon. Ortega is 9 o'clock on Friday, competing with 9 o'clock at Sunset Ridge on Fridays.
I noticed the list still says El Camino High School for Cabrillo, so
Right.
it is not.
It
I'm
is
not sure.
not, it's at Mills
Mills.
High School, and it's
Mills,
just
okay.
that, that was what got published in the board
And
agenda
is,
incorrectly.
is Lindemar, is at 11:45?
Yes.
I thought, no, that didn't get changed?
What was that?
Lindemar's,
Always has been.
That's 11:45
Okay.
for their promotion, yes.
okay,
I always went from I always go from Sunset Ridge to Lindemark.
yeah, okay.
There's just enough time.
So can I just go back to the onboarding of the new trustee? Can we do it in September? Because August seems to always be really, really busy. And
Yeah, we just don't want to do it too late because
No.
they'll be starting.
And when we really talk about onboarding will be you and I meeting with the person, and I think ultimately probably a one-to-one meeting with each of you to kind of get to know you individually. But the onboarding part is how to be a trustee, and there are actually CSBA has documents, and we can do that. So that person will be learning all of those things at the same time, so they can still get started and be successful. It's really I think the part that I didn't understand prior to really paying attention as thinking I was going to be a superintendent is the unity of the board, is the importance of the unity of the board. Because even if you disagree with, like say there's a vote and it's 4-1 and you're that one, you don't get to come up publicly and say, they made the wrong decision. And it's like, no, as a board, we are obligated to say, this is our decision. And so those are all things that we have to teach the new trustee, and that's an important piece of why Masters in Governance is a part of that. Is actually, that brings up one more thing that I did want to talk about, which is so you think about how few people have that experience to work. We all work on teams and boards, but typically in a team you can be public about your disagreement. You can't do that in this one. I did want to just put this out there. It's a lot of planting. So I just plant these ideas, and then we go on vacation, and we come back, and we're fresh, and we're thinking about it. But the CSBA conference is in San Diego in this next year. We don't necessarily need to go. We had it every other year. We have it right here in San Francisco. But I'm from the very core of who I am, I believe that this is a learning organization. We're all learners, and so I do think we should, in the August, have a discussion about whether that's something we want to go to. The other piece is, last year I went to the new president's workshop with Laverne. That could be just a one day only, where Jesse and I go down first thing in the morning and then go to that workshop and fly back. Or also they have a new board member session too.
That's really important. It's
That's
like
very
school board
helpful.
101 or whatever.
Very
So-
helpful.
Right.
So I think
But
that's
the expense of 5 and staff going is, I just think not necessarily. Every year, because we go up here,
yeah. I mean,
have quite a discount.
I mean, if I had to choose between the new president or the new board member going, I would choose the new board member. For sure.
But all 5 and staff
Yeah.
is just that money can be used elsewhere, is how I've always felt.
Yeah.
But when it's here in town and we can take Bart, that's different. But-
Right. I think at a time that we're going to be reducing positions, I don't think it serves us well to
To
go
spend
down.
4 days in San Diego. No.
But I will also say is that, that's a professional conference where you were all there at 8 o'clock in the morning, and you were there until after, and you had your sessions picked out, and you got the chance to, so it is very, very valuable. It's the travel, and are going to, even with staff, be reducing some of the travel. Hotels and airlines and other kinds of things that
But
we
it
are.
will be up here again.
It'll be up
Oh,
here the next year.
absolutely.
That's what I said, every other
Right,
year.
yeah,
It's worth
right.
going, but if we have the chance to do it much cheaper every other year.
The two pieces that I would want us to think
Is
about.
the new board member and
Is
the
the new board
president.
member and the new board
And
president.
the president one is important too, because even when you sit in these seats, there's different parts about the presidency that you don't realize till you're sitting there. So it is an important,
Like the
I felt it was very
weekly
helpful.
meetings and,
It was very helpful, so it's a good one too.
But I see those as being the priority versus
Yes,
attendance and that.
I agree.
Okay, good. I think we talked about all of those, right?
Yeah.
So not necessarily decisions. We will come back with this chart cleaned up with administrators, frequency of the meetings, if we should have that necessary redundancy versus just kind of 2 people covering it. And I'll work on starting to think about the CSB. I actually like that idea of unstructured and then maybe a little bit more structured, because there are some important pieces that would be beyond my capabilities to be able to facilitate, but we can get more of the conversation in there, so.
All right, so is there anything else?
Nothing else on that category?
So we're moving on to 11F, possible cancellation of July 10th, 2019 regular board meeting, governance.
I do not believe we need to have a July meeting, and so I would recommend that we cancel it.
All those in favor of canceling the July 10th?
Do we need a motion? Can't vote on it without a motion, right?
Could you go any faster?
I will motion to approve canceling the July board meeting.
Second.
All those in favor?
I'll even vote for it, even though I'm not gonna be here.
Yeah, even those of us who don't get a vote have our hands raised, so.
Don't worry, I'll probably just show up anyway and be like, where is everybody?
It's Wednesday.
And then future agenda items.
I have none. So on the 12th is we are going to get the presentation from Bridge Housing. Brookwood will also be there. I think we're going to have our whole team there. We want to have Makiko and folks there to help answer any questions. That is not going to be a work study. It's a special meeting because of the responsibility around making a decision to direct staff around negotiating with Bridge Housing. So we'll have that. And then also on the 12th are the candidate packets are due, and so we will review those. I'm working with Laverne on developing the questions, but is Jessie working with us on that
I
one?
thought so.
Okay.
And
You don't physically
just
need
look
to,
at them.
you don't physically need to be in the room.
so what day is that?
The 12th is when they're due, so
Yeah.
at some point we just need to review them, and I don't know.
And we're gonna review them together? Or we're gonna do it separately and then come together? What's the idea?
So far, we don't have enough that would be, that it would take a significant amount of time.
That's not,
Okay.
sorry, my point is that we sort of work independently and then come back with our feedback rather than just look at them all together and start talking from the get-go.
I've already done, like, I've gone through, like, what she had, and then I added the ones that I thought would be helpful.
So she's talking about the questions.
Oh,
No, I'm not talking about the questions, I'm talking about.
The packets.
We're actually talking about responding to the written applications that we've gotten, right?
We were actually talking about both things, that's why.
Oh, okay, sorry,
So,
I'm
no,
just
that's okay.
confused, but I thought that, yeah, I thought we were talking about coming together, because you said that the application packets are due from the people, from the candidates, on the 12th.
On the 12th.
So sometime after that, shortly after that, we have to get together. So-
Shortly after
So
that.
my question is, are you going to distribute those ahead of time and we can look at them and then bring our feedback and then we can deliberate then? Or are we gonna get together and all read them together? at the
No,
same
I
time?
think we can do it asynchronously, separately.
It's a long word. Too many syllables.
Okay, yeah. Sorry, Dr. Levin.
Okay, so when do you guys want to do it? I got my calendar open right here.
well, she has a doc. This is going back to the questions. So I would like somebody to just look them over and see if, there's other questions that you might think of for asking the candidates when we're interviewing them.
Oh, gotcha. yeah.
So depending on the number of candidates
If
that
they
we
make
have, we
sense.
really want to keep it down to, like, if, between a 20-minute interview, and so that's really not more than 6 to 8 questions, so it's really
And
less
there's
is
like,
going to be
what,
more.
15?
So now I'm kind of with it. This is talking about doing the interviews themselves as opposed to
Correct.
discussing.
So if you have a doc, do you want to just can we share the doc? Is that
So,
a brown
so,
violence?
yeah, if we
Yes.
share it and
Can't
you
do
all
more.
contribute, so 2 people can, but I
Yeah.
think the 5 of you would be violation. So,
Yes.
I could share them in the weekly memo, and you could give me feedback, but I don't think we're gonna be there. There's a lot between now and then, so. So why don't we find a time that the 3 of us can have a conversation about date and time so that we're not holding folks up? But are you, Jessie's the board member?
Sure.
Jessie,
I'm fine, yeah.
good? Good.
All right. Anything else? Nope. Okay, meeting's adjourned at 8:27 PM.
And please join us for a little piece of cake. And Trustee Gould, do you have time for cake, Trustee Gould?